Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to CS-Sensei, our Saturday morning live webinars. This morning we have a really good demonstration as well as a lot of learning for you guys in reference to the USAJobs.gov. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it is literally the federal government's Indeed, if you want to think about it. And you know, a number of years ago, the USA Jobs site was actually contracted out to Monster, but I think they're doing it all now in-house. But anyway, a number of years ago, it used to be Monster that managed USA Jobs. So the point of doing this today, we're going to show everyone how to create a login.gov account, establish your USA Jobs profile, search for federal IT and cybersecurity jobs. And the reason you'll learn more about that as we go on, but sometimes cybersecurity is sort of nestled under IT and it's harder to find. So we'll show you both ways to get to that. We will show you how to do quick searches, which are also known as ad hoc searches. You can do saving of your searches and retrieving them, and you can also have USA Jobs send you your searches periodically based on times that you select. We will show you how to customize your searches so that you maximize the number of vacancies and minimize those that you're not interested in. And then we're going to give you some tips and tricks and things to especially watch for. So again, USA Jobs is, and this is what they call themselves, the federal government's official employment site. It connects job seekers with federal employment opportunities worldwide, but these are U.S. civil service jobs. So be aware that they don't search civil service in other countries. They don't search out in the industry. These are just jobs with the federal government for the United States. And it is a central place to find opportunities in hundreds of federal agencies and organizations. Now, when they say that, they typically mean, oh, there you are, Norman, good to see you. When they say hundreds of locations, it could mean a sub-location to an agency. So that's why you'll see, for example, we'll get to it, but USA Jobs is owned by, or it's run by opm.gov. So it'll show opm.gov by way of USA Jobs. So that's how they say they get, you know, more than 70 agencies, and there aren't 70 agencies in the federal government. So how big is USA Jobs? Well, according to the the OPM administrator, over 14,000 federal job vacancies are available each day. When you go on and begin your search, there are more than 10,000 jobs waiting for you to look for them. They say that through USA Jobs, 22 million applications are started each year, and more than 1 billion searches are conducted each year on USAJobs.gov. So it is big. The typical steps to go through this, and I took this straight off the USA Jobs website, but you create a login.gov account, you create your USA Jobs profile, you search for your jobs, you review the announcements. In other words, you can search for jobs that you won't qualify for. You can search for jobs like, I want to be a senior executive, and you're still washing dishes. It's totally okay. All of these job vacancies are totally searchable by anyone for any reason. You could say, well, what if I were a military spouse? And you can look. So it's totally up to you. However, you can't apply and expect to have your application go anywhere if you're not qualified. So that's the one thing to take into account there. But you can, using USA Jobs, submit your applications right there for the agency. I've done it many, many times. You'll be on and you'll like one and it'll say apply here. You click on apply and it says what documents do you want to put? I carry a resume up on USA Jobs, so I say use this resume. here are my transcripts from my college, and then it'll ask like 4 or 5 questions. Fill them out, and I've applied. It's that simple. Then after you've submitted, number 7, the agency reviews the application. If they believe that you are among the most qualified candidates, they will schedule an interview. And then after all the interviews are done, the agency selects the candidate, and you are hired. Let's get optimistic here. This morning, we're only going to cover the first 4 steps. We're going to show you how to do login.gov, show you your USAJOBS profile, show you how to search for jobs, and then review the job announcements when they do arrive. Okay? That's what we're going to cover today. So, login.gov. Why does this say USAJobs.gov requires login.gov? Well, if you remember, we talked about this in previous weeks with the CS-Sensei group. Multi-factor authentication is the mandated method of logging into government websites. If they don't have local MFA, they can use login.gov as their federal MFA, multi-factor authentication, and it uses, in fact, we'll show it at some point, but it uses authenticators, and you can use pretty much any authenticator. There's my Google authenticator, and I can use that for login.gov. Microsoft Authenticator, there are lots of different ones, and you can choose. They will all work with login.gov. And it is necessary to access USAJOBS. You cannot get to USAJOBS directly. And I'll show you this as well, when you go into USAJOBS and say login, it's going to take you to login.gov. Okay, so just a real quick rundown. There was actually discussion of, login.gov says that over 70 agencies use them. What are those 70 agencies? Somebody actually did a Freedom of Information Act and said, are you telling the truth? And they put it out there. So if you notice on the right-hand side, it says Office of Personnel Management, specifically USAJOBS, within OPM. On the left-hand side near the bottom, it says Department of Labor. There are certain agency websites within the Department of Labor that are available to the public that use login.gov. So it is a feature that can be used across the federal workspace. And so that doesn't mean, for example, the entire General Services Administration, upper right, the entire GSA uses login.gov. Certain areas of GSA may. It's totally up to them. Okay, so we're going to get started with a login.gov account. I will show you how to do that. You need to enter 3 things. You have an email address, you have a secure password that you're going to enter, and you're going to use authentication such as, like I showed you, my Google Authenticator. And you choose your authenticators. It's important to understand that things like secure keys and even PIV cards, if you've got a PIV card or a CAC card for the DoD, those are considered to be more secure than these web-based authenticator accounts. So that's why they say more secure, less secure. Use whichever works for you, but understand that these are not foolproof. There are some fools that have gotten into them. All right. Any questions before we get started? Any questions? Good morning, Douglas. Good to see you, sir. Welcome back.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Okay. So when you go to login.gov, you're going to select to create an account. And I've stepped you through the 3 screens that you're going to hit. The first one says enter your email, tell us what language you would like to use, and that you have read and accept the rules of use. Now, being a cybersecurity mentorship group, what does this checkbox mean? That means that later on, they can take you to court if you violate the rules of use. But you and I have all discussed this before. Nearly no one reads those rules of use. Same thing with your logon security warning banner. But you are agreeing that you have done so. That's a legal discussion there. Okay, so you click submit, and then it'll say check your email, because they will send an email to you and give you a link which allows you to create your account. And when you do, you'll enter your password at that point, and you're good to go. So this is just the confirmation in login.gov, and it says check the link below or paste it into your web browser, and it confirms that that is indeed you, and then you make sure that you have an assigned password. Okay? Very simple on login.gov, and you can use the same login.gov account for any agency that uses login.gov. Let's say I have an account over at Defense Acquisition University, DAU. If they use login.gov, the same login.gov can be used for them and for USAJOBS. Okay, one login.gov. All right, so you go to USAJOBS, you say you're going to sign in, you put in your email address and your password. Again, because you have it over in login.gov, you don't have to do a new account on USAJOBS. One account gets you here. And then it says enter your authentication app code. And again, you can use, I use this, Chris shared with me that we both use Google Authenticator because it's just so doggone simple. And I've got, well, I'm going to actually describe this to you a little bit. I have Google Authenticator for my Amazon account, for my Google account, for login.gov, and yep, Defense Acquisition University, there it is. So, and they're all different. I say I want to go into DAU, and it says here's your code. I say I want to go into login.gov, here's your code. I want to go into google.com, here's your code. The codes are not the same for the various agencies or organizations. It'll be a one-time code, and it changes every 60 seconds. So you submit it, and you are on the website. Now, Chris is going to demonstrate how to do some searches, but I wanted to sort of start this off so everybody understands that a search is, how do I say this? The vacancy announcement information that's put out there is not consistent. So one person or one agency, let's say, may have a vacancy that they call Information Technology Specialist InfoSec, which is short for Information Security. Another one may say Cybersecurity Analyst. You just have to read through these as you're looking. So if you notice in the upper left, I typed cybersecurity for the keyword. And you notice there are a number of them there, including IT Cybersecurity Specialist InfoSec and IT Cybersecurity Specialist no space InfoSec. So this information is manually entered, and it may have things like typos. Just be aware of that. Make sure that your job search encompasses the largest number of things there. I did cybersecurity, and that was it. So these other things showed up because they had the word cybersecurity in them. Now, the one at the very bottom, that's important to take a look at because it says IT Cybersecurity Specialist, and then it has a program code there. That code is a sub-shred, as it's called, of the cybersecurity, the GS2210 series. If you look in the middle, GS2210 is Information Technology Management. That is pretty much everything IT, from computer intern to CIO. They are all part of 2210. So just be aware, all IT jobs, including cyber, fit into 2210. So if you say you're doing a 2210 job search, that encompasses both cybersecurity and everything else in IT. And then over on the right-hand side, I typed InfoSec, just for grins. And you notice there are a number of vacancies or at least titles there that don't say cybersecurity. So it's important for you to remember cybersecurity, InfoSec, and 2210 may all get you to the vacancy announcement you want. So the trick is use multiple keywords when you're doing your searches. And Chris will demonstrate some of that. So here are some of the search filters. There are lots of filters, but these are the main ones that you will use. You notice on the left, I selected open to the public and veterans because I'm a veteran. Now I could have done others like competitive service, internal to an agency, etc. But I wanted to sort of give a large grouping here to give you an idea of the filters that you should set up. Sometimes I may not go for veterans. Sometimes I may just go open to the public. Sometimes I may go competitive service. And some of these vacancy announcements are announced multiple ways. Same job announcement, but it's open to the public and veterans and competitive service. That could be 3 different announcements. Chris, you were going to say something?
I see you have competitive services and accepted services, and you kind of described it. I know there's people in the audience here who don't know what that could be, but the federal employees give the hint of what they're looking at versus open to the public. Right. Can you briefly go over, or you want me to briefly go over what that means, or?
Well, competitive service is anybody who's already in civil service, and accepted service I'm not sure about.
Okay.
I believe it has to do with if you're in certain geographic areas or individuals with disabilities. So accepted service may be the one that refers to somebody who has a family member with a special need. And that is, for example, if they're going to send you overseas to Germany or something, and you have identified yourself as being in a family that has somebody who has special needs, like certain on-site care that's required, they may allow you to go over there, but these jobs are set to allow for these accepted service applicants specifically.
I'll give you a scenario, switching gears on you. I am a contractor that works for Region San Francisco, and I work in a desk side support role. Am I part of the competitive service, or am I not part of the competitive service?
If you are a civil service person, you're in competitive service. If you're a contractor, you are not competitive service. And there are modifications to that as well. You notice career transition shows that could be somebody who is out of work but is eligible for what's called the career transition. Former federal employees can come back in using career transition, possibly.
Okay, cool.
So competitive service means you're in civil service now, you're applying for a civil service job. You're competing with everyone else. And again, it's important to note that the HR may send these vacancies out on several lists. I've actually seen, for example, there was one that said it was open to the public, and there was one that said it was competitive service, and in the one that was open to the public, it said that veterans could apply. So because I was in civil service, I applied on the competitive service, and I applied in the open to the public. Your application for one will not go over to the other. You've got to apply in both. Submit 2 applications. And oh, by the way, what the hiring manager does, their HR sends it out, let's say, on 2 lists, one for open to the public and one for competitive service. They're going to get 2 lists of what the HR believes are the most qualified candidates. They've read through your resume quickly, and they say, yeah, you look like you qualify for this. Competitive service, they're going to look for former civil service experience. But let's say that you are number 14 on one and number 214 on the other one. If those folks want you, they're going to go over to this list and start here. You could be, different places. It's just important to make sure that you understand you may have to apply multiple times so that you're on every list you qualify. Multiple times. And by the way, just because I'm a veteran, I may be applying for things where my veteran status doesn't have any application. All right, so that's we'll teach a little bit more about this in later sessions, but I just wanted you to see, it's 110 vacancies are open to the public, 55 are open to competitive service. It sounds like, that may not be a lot, but, oh, by the way, over in the far right-hand side, salary. My recommendation is, this is just my recommendation, be careful about limiting the salary too much, because the low amount, you may say, well, I make, $98,000 a year. This job has to give me at least $98,000. Okay, fair enough. But leave room below and above to where a job vacancy will appear if your $98,000 fits within their range. In other words, a low one would be $40,000 to $98,000, and a high one would be $95,000 to $140,000 or whatever. And you're right there in the sweet spot in the middle. Chris.
Another thing you want to be careful about salary, that when they put it in the job application or when they put in the announcement, it's based on the locality pay, the base pay with the locality into it. So right. Locality is where the job is located or where the job has been announced. So if you're looking for, let's say, $60,000, but the locality pay for like Denver, Colorado is much less than that. I'm sorry, I'm using a poor example, but let's say the location has a lower base, we will not see that job announcement at all.
Right, right. So my suggestion is leave the salary for later. I leave my salary wide open and say, show me everything, and then I decide when I'm looking at them. Start with a large number, and then you can refine it later on. Also, grades are a bit of a challenge because there are some groups that have what are called pay banding. In other words, there is one group that might encompass GS 7, 8, and 9. So you don't know for sure, and if you say, well, I'm looking for a GS 7 job, it may or may not fit into that pay band. So don't worry about it. Open it up and say, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. Oh, here's one. Look at that. So pay banding is something to be aware of. It may or may not look like what you're thinking about when you say GS7. Yes, Chris.
And it's based on the band equivalency to the GS schedule, not by the amount of money it is. So a GS13 could equal ZV2. ZV is another pay band.
Right.
And that could be a much lower amount of money versus what the job is asking for, or a much higher amount. You're pretty much, it's back and forth for what it is. It depends on the band, not the money.
Right. Douglas, did you have something? I thought I saw your hand raised.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to mention something that happened to me that I wanted to make everyone aware in case they're not yet. There was a position I was interested in, and I applied, but most of my experience was that I applied for that particular position was on when I was not with the government. So that was pre-2000, whatever. And I knew I had to apply for both positions as a competitive service, but it didn't have enough, so I had to apply for the other one. So I just wanted to be considered for both of them. Mm-hmm. However, I couldn't find the one that was set for people who are not non-government or non-competitive service. And what happens is when I call the recruiter or the HR person in charge of that position, they explained to me that they had set it up. I don't know why they set it up for only 50 people. Once they reached 50, it closed, so it was not showing. So unfortunately, I was not considered for that because all my experience was based on what I did before the government.
Now, Doug brings up a very important point that is not even in this slide presentation, but it bears repeating. It is quite possible that because of the number of applications that they anticipate receiving, they could close the vacancy announcement early. In other words, it says it's open for 2 weeks, but they get all of the applications in the first 5 days. They're going to close it. That's it. You're done. You cannot apply, even if you are, solid gold and you were made for that job. It doesn't matter. So it's important to remember you should always be ready to submit quickly, promptly. Don't wait for the end of the vacancy announcement. My particular position that I was hired into, they said, we're going to take the first 100 applications. And oh, by the way, it was on 2 lists. And I made sure I was on both lists, and I showed up as most qualified. I didn't even know which list they selected me from, but I was selected. So increase your odds. Apply early. Okay, that's just my recommendation. So here's what it looks like when you put your filters together. And these are just some of my filters. And this is from this morning, just so you know. Look at that big gold circle down there. I said I'm looking for jobs that are open to the public, for veterans, offers telework, full-time or shift work or permanent, occasional travel, 25% or less travel, 50% or less travel, in the locations of Alexandria, Arlington County, Arlington, Virginia, DC, Maryland, and the last one in dark gray, that's within 25 miles of my address. Okay, that's why it's a different color. It's not within 25 miles of where the job is. It's within 25 miles of the address that I put on my profile.
Scotty, that's using the cybersecurity search term, correct?
No.
No,
this was just 2210.
2210. Okay, no. I just want to know what the search term was.
Yeah, it was 2210.
So use the middle one on the bottom. Okay.
Yep. And it came up with 1,647 job vacancies today, this morning. So that's why it always helps to use a variety of filter combinations. You notice Northern Virginia, for anybody who knows Northern Virginia, I put Alexandria, I put Arlington County, I put Arlington. I think there's also one that says Northern Virginia, and then there's also nationwide. So be aware that if something is in one location, it's not in the others. They're going to put one location. So somebody's going to say, this is in Arlington, Virginia. If you put in your search filter Arlington County, Virginia, it won't show up. If you put in Alexandria, Virginia, it won't show up. So get creative. Again, start with a broad search and then narrow it down when you take a look at your results. So that's just to give you an idea. 1,647 job vacancies using this filter criteria. By the way, you notice I didn't put anything in there about salary. Show me them all, and I'll decide. So I wanted to give space to Chris because he's going to do a demonstration of how to do a search. Did anybody have any questions as we're changing off here? Any questions?
I also have my list of topics that I would like to do, but if you guys have any topics or any searches you want me to start with, I'd be glad to do that as well because I want to make this as interactive as possible. Let me get to the right place here. And it booted me out. Give me one moment, guys. Sorry. Another nice security feature is they will boot you out after an activity.
Yep.
And it doesn't do the multi-factor for me because it recognizes me on this computer. I haven't figured out how to shut that off yet. So is there any topics before I do my agenda?
I think it's important for us to take a look at you notice there are 3 big numbers there. It says 21 applications Chris has in, 3 saved jobs that Chris has in, and 8 saved searches. That means that he can pull up any of those 8 and it will show him all of those filter information, and he just brings it up and it automatically refreshes. That's where you need to make sure you're not just using one search, you're using a variety of terms to try and capture all of the possible vacancies that may fit for you. Don't rely on a single search.
This 21 number we're going to show in future because that is done after you apply, but these are all the applications I applied for. I'll show you how to get saved jobs when we do a quick search. That's part of the agenda. And then the 8 saved searches is how you can save searches that you've done, and I'll show how that's done from there.
Thanks.
Okay? Since I'm not getting much in the way of topics, I'll go ahead and do a quick search first. Top right-hand corner, once you have done all the setup that Scotty's told you to do, you click on search, and you have a little keyword and location with search. This link is nice because it tells you how the search works, and you can read that a little bit later on how the searches look. I actually learned something new when I looked at it this morning about how searches work. But we'll do the 2210, start broadly. And you can see, here's something neat that I'll show everybody. If you end up going to the Department of Homeland Security, there's going to be different codes that Department of Homeland Security is using. So if you end up getting into there, that's something for the future. But I'll go ahead and see 2210, Information Technology Management. That'll be the big, broad search. And it says I'm now using 29 search filters. I'm going to knock locations out. This is how you can knock out locations to see what they are. I'll look at everybody here just to make it a little more broader. You can see the number jumps up as I add veterans. Still at 439. I wonder why I'm not jumping up. Do I have a filter on that I probably don't want? Let's take off offers telework. Take off everybody, actually. What happens here? This is not being nice to me. I'm sorry.
I will say that the ones that typically say things like internal to an agency are only helpful if, for example, you are in the GSA as a federal civilian and you're looking for GSA jobs, etc. So internal to an agency is tightly restricted, typically the smallest amount of vacancies you'll see.
It's coming up at 625 for me. I'm at general 2210. I'm not getting the nice number that you got. And I'm not sure why. Salary is fine. Department agencies, is there anything funny here? Nothing funny there. That's what all filters off. I'm not sure why I don't get the 1006 that you got, Scotty. Okay. Let's go back to 2210. Yep, 625. Okay. And here's the nicer part of 2210. I'm not going to worry too much about matching Scotty's number from earlier. You can sort this by open date. And you can see ascending, it has the 03/31/2021. You go descending, you can get the newer ones that just came in. And that can help you with seeing which ones come in as they come in. Now, let's say I like this search and I want to keep it. I can go ahead and save this search. You give it a name. I'll call it IT management. And then you can set the notifications daily, weekly, or monthly. If you're really searching, daily is good, but it's gonna exhaust you with a lot of things in your email, the daily reports that come in. A lot of people who are already in a job will just pick weekly, and the weekly will come in with their notifications. And let's see, did I share correctly my email here of what the results would look like? Yes, right here. That's what a saved job report would look like that it sends to your inbox. And it's based off of your new. Go ahead, Scotty.
One thing to remember when you get these emails, it will only show typically the top 10. And then at the bottom, it will have a link that takes you back over to USA Jobs where you can see if there were more than 10 vacancy announcements.
Do that by clicking on View All Opportunities. Now, to get the number for saving your application, there's two ways to do that. If you like it by the title or the agency, you can click on the star that says Save Job right here, and it saves it to your list. And then I go back to my dashboard. See my number jump from 3 to 4. And then there's the where I saved it right here. So it saves it for you for later use if you want to apply for it later. Hit the back button. See if it takes me back to the search. It does. Cool. You can also click on the position, and you can click Save on the star here if you read through the announcement and you like what you saw. Any questions about doing a quick search and getting the search results from there?
Hey, Chris, could you do a cybersecurity just to see what it looks like?
Uh-huh. I'll go to search. I'll do the one-word cybersecurity.
Yeah, and one thing to be aware of, some people may call it cyberspace security, and there is a U.S. Cyber Command out there. So there may be a janitor job at Cyber Command that if you type cyber will show up. It's not necessarily an IT job, but it's with the U.S. Cyber Command, so be aware of that one.
Nice thing that the USAJOB does is actually goes through its list of keywords in series to show you what are the suggestions they have. You can also pull up cybersecurity infrastructure and security agency. Let's see if I get Cyber Command to come up. Yep, there we go. So just typing different various keywords will give you some options to look at. But let's just do a general cybersecurity search. And I got 214, ignoring the numbers. Now, I'm going to go back to 2210 because I want to show something neat with the IT management that will help you. You'll see parentheses, network/OS, network data management, especially in the IT specialist area, IT security officer for cybersecurity analyst. See two words here. Just keep in mind of what these are trying to show in the 2210, and that can help you narrow your search down from the 625.
And one thing, it has been my experience that there could be a variety of different vacancies or position names that literally may work in the same branch or directorate. So there may be a policy and planning IT person. There may be a cybersecurity IT person. There may be a branch chief IT person or whatever. So just remember that if you're looking for a cybersecurity job, it may not even hint that it's a cybersecurity job. You may have to look down into it to see who this person works for and what their responsibilities are. We'll do that in a later search, but you know, it could be hidden, so start with a broad net.
Yep. Something that I've learned from the search tips, and I'm going to already pop this up here. You can search by keyword. I actually clicked here to say how to search by keyword. And this is something I learned that kind of was an aha moment for me. You can use the keyword search to start entering job, department, agencies, job, search, series, keywords. We'll provide a list of keywords you can choose from. The keyword search box is located at the top right. Okay. Let's say if you want to do multiple keywords. When you enter more than one keyword, we'll look for jobs that contain all the keywords together. Each of the keywords you must enter exist in a job announcement for that announcement for return. And here's my aha moment. For example, if you enter program analyst, we'll look for jobs that contain both program and analyst together. So why is this an aha for me? One job. Okay, fine. Let's do a better one. Ah, 137. And I'll show you a trick. When you're looking for, thinking about what you want to apply, there are two important sections you want to look for. Qualifications. And typically with 2210s, this is always the case with these, the attention to detail, the customer service, the oral communication, and the problem solving. But you can also look at the specialized experience here, and you can pick off keywords from here: virtualization, curiosity. Everything that has to do with virtualization is here. Systems administrator, different job title. So you can actually look through different keywords within the position to figure out if there's other positions that are not named IT specialist, system admin, for example. They should appear in your 2210 list, but there are some positions, and I have not found one just yet, where it could be an 0343, it's a management position, an analyst position, which they still may categorize to 2210, but it depends on how the agency structures the position. So different keywords, send searches, quick searches. Anybody else with any topics they want to know?
Quiet bunch today.
Or if anybody wants me to do a simulated search to see where it was, like give me a keyword and location just to see how it works.
Just for grins, look up Texas.
Okay, so let's do cybersecurity. Let's do Texas.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so can we look for internship? So let's say like something regarding cybersecurity, like internship.
Students and recent graduates. I'll put a click.
Mm-hmm.
That little orange with the book on it, jobs open to current students in an accredited high school, college, or graduate institution. A lot of them would be called student trainees. If I want a more broad research, Norman, or actually not necessarily a broad search. That's the 2210 right here. And this is where Scotty says try different keywords. So let's say, let me spell penetration testing properly. And
yes, sometimes they misspell it, and sometimes they abbreviate it. It could be in there as a pen tester, and you may not see penetration.
Let's have them see pen and testing for students and see what happens. No, okay, nothing happens. But let's take out the 2210 and see what happens. Nope. See, a lot of this is trial and error. And you know what? Let's see what happens if I put testing. Here's a computer scientist role for a trainee. Some of these you do have to read, like this announcement may be used to fill more vacancies. This public notice used to be used to fill. So I don't want to say it's a resume grabber, but you still want to put these in. The position that I was in for IT specialist was a resume grab for USDOL. And that's how I was able to get onto the IT specialist role. I thought I was just dumping my resume into a group of resumes, but to still apply, you never know who's looking in that board to look for somebody.
Yeah, and that's one important thing. It's sort of not exactly on topic here, but when you put a resume up in USA Jobs, that resume is not searchable by recruiters unless you click on the little box that says make this searchable. I have 3 resumes up there, and they're years old, but they're not searchable, so I just have them up there for my own use in case I want to pull information like my prior jobs or whatever. If you want recruiters to see your resume up there, you have to click to make it searchable. And yes, federal recruiters do go out and look for job vacancies and contact people and say, we'd like you to apply.
Yes.
I have a question.
Doc?
When, let's say, for example, a position, specific position in IT or cybersecurity, in, let's say, Homeland Security, they require you to be ready with your phone 24 hours. Will it appear there under requirements?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but Scotty, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the specifics to the job are usually listed in the job description itself, may not always show up in the filters. There was one that I covered recently on one of our webinars that said, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, etc. And it said, this job may require you to work long hours, 16 hours straight. It may require you to work in an area where you have lots of facilities or no facilities at all, i.e. a tent in the middle of the desert, those sorts of things. But those are down in the actual description for the position. You have to get to that position first before you can examine some of those features or requirements within that particular position.
Okay.
Switching gears back to Nerman's question. Nerman, I don't know if you saw what I just did. In one of the applications, I saw software systems. I did a copy of software systems and pasted in the keywords in the search, and boom, it went from 1 to 12. So some neat tricks you can do to either expand or narrow your search.
Got it.
Thanks. And you can see sometimes, I wonder why clerk and assistant appeared there. Huh, that's curious. Administration's office support. Yep, start somewhere. And again, this is experience. If you see something that's like lower level, and you're like, I don't know, apply for it, especially if you get that experience branch. Best example I'll do, sometimes I like to do this. Hey, I know Python. And let's take student out of it. Data scientist, data analytics. Not necessarily, here's a trainee IT, statistician. I mean, try keywords where you know what to do. And best place I can get you to have keywords to think about. I've shown this site before. I'll definitely get hits on this one.
Yeah,
that's just from searching from a feeder role of a
Systems
network.
administration is also shortened frequently to sysadmin. You'll see that as well.
Also, the search should sit there and say, hey, if it's system administration, it should be somewhere in the file where it says sysadmin. Not seen yet specifically right now. Could be hidden. But those are just some tricks. And if you like the search that you see, again, go ahead and click Save Search and name it and have it set for you to send it to you.
Excellent. Anything else, Chris?
That's within the scope of our thing. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to me. We're going to finish up. We've got a few other things to share with you. So this is, if you want to think about it, tips and tricks for your federal job search. Some of the things that you should be watching for are the phrase direct hire authority. And in short, there may be other definitions that apply. This is the definition as I understand it. Direct hire authority means that the hiring manager can select you even if you aren't on the top of the list of the most qualified candidates. In other words, there are federal hiring programs that, for example, will require a hiring manager to select people under certain criteria above the most highly qualified candidates. For example, veterans, or military spouse, or American, what's it called, Aboriginal, American Native, American Indian, or Eskimo, the Inuits. You can get hired before people who are more qualified than you are. So if it says direct hire authority, the hiring manager has applied for the capability to select from among the most qualified candidates, and in some cases ignore those hiring preference programs. You want, unless you're an American native, you want to look for those direct hire authority because the government wants to sort of poke through some of those other hiring preference groups and look at the most qualified candidate regardless of whether they're in a group that requires the federal government to hire them. So watch for direct hire authority. That's a good one to look for. Also, watch for multiple grades. If you see something that says like GS 11/13, that means you could be hired as a GS 11 or GS 12 or GS 13. And if you're hired as a GS 11, after a year of fully qualified performance, if they give you a passing review, you could be automatically promoted to 12 and or 13. All right, so those are good little upward slide positions to watch for. You could be hired in at the bottom level and then just because of successful performance over the course of a couple years, make it to that higher level just by working the exact same job. Like Chris was saying, pay ranges can vary based on your locations. If I'm applying for a position here in Arizona, it will have different pay, same job, different pay compared to somebody who's applying in Washington, D.C. Now here's number 4. This is an important one for anybody who's not a Fed. If you are coming from the public, it is possible for them to change the amount that they are going to pay you based on your current salary rate. If you are in civil service, the same thing, it's a little different. It's a different mix. But if you're coming in off the street, they're going to say, we're offering you a GS, what's called Step 1, which is the lowest possible pay rate. But if you're already getting paid more, you can say, well, I'm going to accept this vacancy announcement, but I want it up at this amount. And the federal government can adjust upward to match your salary requirements when you're coming in off the street. So just remember that. They're going to offer you a Step 1, which is the lowest possible rate. At that point, and this is part of the strategy, don't say no, say, I will accept it if you agree to match this. Never say no if there is an informal offer of a position. Never say no, because that immediately disqualifies you. You could say, no, I'm not going to accept that because I want you to pay me this much. You said no, they drop you. All right, so be aware of that. We'll talk about that in the actual discussion strategy in a later time. And it says, number 6, announcement locations are not consistent. There could be one that says Baltimore City. There could be one that says Baltimore County. There could be one that says Linthicum, which is where the NSA is. There could be one that says Maryland State. There could be one that says nationwide. they're going to announce one location. So you, for your filter, make sure you put several locations in there that cover that particular location so you don't miss out. The hiring agency's HR manager puts that position in there, and it may or may not be what you think. So use a number of search terms like you saw me. Arlington, Arlington County, Alexandria, all of those could be literally a block away from each other. So use many search terms in your search filters. And again, it is possible to go in under some other position and then change over, do a lateral assignment to a cybersecurity job. That's, for anybody that may not have a lot of cybersecurity experience, but you may have IT experience, get a job in IT and then lateral over.
So that janitor you spoke about earlier in one of your examples has a chance of becoming a CS? Like
yes, yes. Based on your experience, yes. What you would do, and here's how it would go. You would apply for and be accepted for, let's say, the janitor job. But, oh, by the way, you have a bachelor's of science degree in computer science and cybersecurity certificate from your local community college. You have Security Plus certification, etc. That would allow you to apply outside of your current series into a GS 2210, possibly cybersecurity, even though you're a janitor. Okay? Your qualifications will allow you to apply for other positions.
Got it. Could you
yes.
mention something again about number 5, the full-time telework? I think I missed that one.
Oh, yeah, full-time telework. It's important to understand this because, well, I'm part of this, and that's why I'm bringing it up. A lot of people think full-time telework means I spend 40 hours a week in a telework posture from a telework location. And so that some people think full-time telework means I never go into the office. Different agencies have different definitions for what they consider to be telework. And our agency, for example, full-time telework means you telework remotely, but you report to the office 2 times per pay period. So it just depends on the HR. Full-time telework may not mean 100% of the time you are remote.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that may snag you. Just be aware full-time telework may require you, and I think in most cases it does require you, to come into work at least 1 day per pay period, sometimes 2, sometimes more. Okay, so let me go over to this one. Remember, if you're looking for a federal job, you will use USAJOBS. There are very few federal job vacancies I've found that aren't in USAJOBS. There may even be a special one where it's on the agency webpage and on USAJOBS. Try applying at both. But the instance of U.S. federal agencies conducting their own job searches without USAJOBS are getting fewer and fewer. And you can search at any time for any job vacancy in any field. So again, start wide. Look at some of the wild stuff. What if I wanted to go to Bahrain? Type up Bahrain in the top and see where it leads you. All right? Nothing wrong with looking, nothing wrong with saving those searches, and there's nothing wrong with applying. Practice it. Apply for something you know that you're not going to be approved for, and let the system work and see what it looks like when it comes out, where they say, you were not selected, or you were not qualified, or whatever. See how it comes out so that you'll get used to seeing those. All right, and the last suggestion here, remember to use filters. Multiple filters, multiple searches. The same thing may appear on multiple searches of yours, but there may be that pot of gold that you're looking for that's not in this search, not in this search, not in this search, but it is in this one. Use those searches. As many searches as you want. What's the maximum number of searches, Chris? It used to be 5.
I think
you had 8.
I think it's up to 10 now. I think it conks out at 10.
Yeah. And remember, every search that you put together, they will send you the top vacancies in your email. You don't even have to go looking. They'll send it to you. Okay? So that's it. That's our presentation for the day. Everybody, did anybody have any last-minute questions before we finish up?
Not a question, but a quick comment, Scotty. You did say the number of agencies are shrinking. That does not preclude you from actually searching that agency and seeing if they're on USA Jobs or not.
Yep.
Nothing prevents you from doing that.
Right. Like Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. If you want a job at the Navy Yard, you may be able to look on the Navy Yard's website and find stuff that you may not find on USA Jobs.
Some of the defense agencies also have their separate job searches. For example, if you're looking at intelligence careers, I think it's intelligence. I have to look that up. I'll put it on the CS-Sensei. You go from there.
Intelligence, just so you know, requires a high amount of security classification, including what are called polygraph exams. And in many cases, it's 2 polygraph exams you have to pass. So it takes time to get those jobs. And people who are in those jobs try and stay in those jobs. They just move around within the Intel community.
Very secure, but doesn't prevent you from applying.
That's right.
And trying.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with, nobody's going to see, oh, you applied for 98 other jobs. They're not going to see that. They're going to see you applied for my job that I'm offering, so that's why I'm looking at you. Great. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you participating today. And
all right, thanks.
Have a great Saturday.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thanks, everybody.